Everybody, we're here at Green Gable Alpacas in Birch Hill, Prince Edward Island, and I'm being joined by Janet Ogilvie, who's the owner of this alpaca farm, and we're in her cute little shop. So I have all kinds of questions for you, Janet, but just tell us about the shop first. It's so cute.
Well, thank you. So the shop is actually the renovated milk house. This used to be a dairy farm.
Okay.
When I got here, it was full of box stalls and cattle stanchions because they had farmed dairy for a period of time, and this was the milk house.
Oh, so cute. Very cozy. You must have done some work, quite a lot of work.
It didn't look quite like this when we got here. No.
Right. All right, so now we'll get to the real interview.
Okay.
So the first question that everybody asks us, and I'm going to ask you, is how did you get here?
Oh.
How long have you been here? How did you get here? And I want to hear all about your previous farming experience.
Okay. So I've been here 9.5 years. I arrived January 2010. And this was, I had no prior farming experience. I never lived in the country a day of my life. I'm a city girl, born and raised. My life, I'm from Hamilton, Ontario, actually. And so I lived in Hamilton virtually all my life. I've been a single mom since my youngest daughter, Rachel, was 2, and she's now 25. And it was always me and the girls, and me and the girls. And I had a really good job. I worked at the University of Guelph. I was an administrator there at the veterinary teaching hospital, and I had a large staff, and I wore high heels and business suits to work every day, and I never went out of the house without my hair done or without makeup on. And anyway, and I was very materialistic, actually. I was very concerned about the car that I drove, the vacations that I took, the job that I had, and the clothes that I wore. And although I had a good job, I had a really good job, it wasn't good enough for me. So, because I really wanted to make lots and lots of money.
Oh, okay.
So I decided that I would enroll at the University of Toronto and do an MBA. Because I wanted to earn a lot of money. Anyway, so I was going to school part-time and I was working full-time. And 6 weeks into the MBA, I lost my oldest daughter, Amanda. And it was sudden and it was unexpected. And I didn't know what to do, so I went back to work and I stayed in school. But about 4 months later, things got very bad for me. I went off work and I never returned. And it took some time, but I was eventually diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And when my doctor first told me that, I thought, I think you're crazy. Because at that time, 12 years ago, people who suffered from PTSD were emergency services personnel and, you know, soldiers and people overseas and that kind of stuff. So I didn't understand his diagnosis. And at the same time, I started drinking an awful lot.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, it took about 18 months, but I eventually got into Homewood Healthcare, which is a world-renowned mental health facility in Guelph. I feel very fortunate that I got to go there. And I was a resident there for 2 months. And I was in a group, a small group. There were 7 of us in the group in the Substance Abuse and Trauma Safety Program. And there were 4 veterans in my group. And although our traumas were very, very different, we behaved the same way. I do have PTSD.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, one young gentleman I met there, he was a 2-time Afghanistan vet. He was only 33 years old. And he was from Halifax, but his grandmother lived here on the island in Seaview, which is basically right across the bay. And he used to come here every summer, and he talked about this place constantly when I was in therapy. And I had a couple of thoughts. My first thought was, I can't believe anybody lives like that, because that sounds so foreign to what I know. And my second thought was, but I still want to run away, and that sounds like a really peaceful and really calm place to go. So I decided I wanted to move to the island. So I had finished the MBA by this time, and I looked at all those really, really big important jobs in the Globe and Mail, the ones that I thought that I wanted, and I just didn't want them anymore. So I thought, well, what the heck am I going to do? I knew I wanted to live on a farm because I was running away. And I don't really know who mentioned alpaca. I have no idea how I thought of it. But I spent truly about 3 weeks researching the island, researching the animal, and I told my family that this is what I was going to do. I'm sure my family was very concerned, but I'm glad they stuck by me. So I decided in September 2009 that this is what I wanted to do. I moved into this property January 15th, 2010.
Wow. Okay.
Moving in January to PEI is not always
We did
easy.
it. That's when we did it.
But it seemed to work out.
I think if you can make it through the first January,
I think you're
February,
okay.
then you're okay. Right.
That's right. So I moved. I didn't know a soul on the island when I got here, not anybody. But 6 weeks after I arrived, my first 30 animals arrived. I bought 30 animals sight unseen from a farm in Nova Scotia. I wouldn't recommend it, but that's what I did. And then by the end of June, I had gutted the barn. So I'd taken out all the box stalls and the cattle stanchions. I'd renovated the shop. I'd put up more than 2,000 linear feet of fence, and I put up a sign that said, "Visitors always welcome," because I thought it might be nice to meet some people.
Oh.
And the people started to come. So what started out as me running away has turned into something pretty good.
Yeah.
I kind of like
great.
it here, actually. I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah. Oh, good. So it's home now.
It is home. It's
Yeah.
absolutely home. Yeah.
Great. So you basically were in business open to the public from the very beginning then?
I was. So my initial plan was that I was going to breed animals and sell animals, and that was going to be
Okay.
my income. But I thought, well, maybe I should have some product or something, and people might stop in. And so that's why I decided to kind of have the shop. And I didn't really appreciate how many people come to the island. I didn't move to the island because of... I moved to the island for...
Tourism,
No, I moved to the island for a particular lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that there was such a tourism industry, an agricultural industry, craft industry, and everything I do actually hits all of those things. So what started out as people coming to the farm and me saying, "Hey, I got some animals, you want to see them?" Kind of evolved into me being a tour operator and a fibre production farm.
Right.
So it's evolved.
Great. Wow. Okay. So we've known each other for 3 years almost, I think, or 3 years, and I didn't know all of that. So that's pretty interesting. And it's really interesting about the circumstances were not the same, obviously, but the motivation to move is quite similar. I think to find something a little bit more substantive in life other than just money and the job and the high heels.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Do you wear your high heels anymore? Because I don't.
No, in fact, I think I have one pair of suede high heels in my closet, and they're full of dust.
Mine as well.
Yeah. So it is quite a change, but I don't know if you feel the same way. I'm sure that you probably do about the very first time an animal was born on your farm and selling something that you've made.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard to sell something that I've made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to get over the thought, people are giving me money?
Well,
Or it didn't.
well, that's interesting because at first I gave tours away.
Right.
For several years, I gave them away, and I really enjoyed it. I still really enjoy sharing the farm, sharing the animals, sharing what I've learned with people who come. Not only about the animals, but about life here and all that kind of stuff. And I had no appreciation that others would really value it. I thought they were doing me a favor by allowing me to talk about my animals and my farm. But no, they see value in it. So, but it took me a couple of years to finally click and say, I have something of value here, and people would be more than happy to pay, to participate, to engage, to have the experience.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people find themselves in the same spot where looking for, it's a piece of peace that they're taking with them.
That's right.
I
think that people come to the island because they want something that islanders have, and I don't think that they can put their fingers on it.
Right.
So they want what islanders have, and I think that most islanders don't realize the gift they truly have.
Yes.
And the gift they have, yes, it's beautiful here, but the gift that the islanders have is they know how to live simply and enjoy it. It's
Right.
the and enjoy it that is their
Right.
gift. And
Right.
that's what visitors who come to the island are hoping to experience, if only for,
Right.
a week at a time or whatever. That's what they come for.
Somebody, an islander, actually explained to me about 3 weeks ago that it's not, we were talking about grandparents and how the past generations here on the island, that it was a hard life. It was, the weather is not easy, and mostly agriculture or fishing, and but this guy and I were talking, and he said, but I said, well, but they were still happy, and he said they were contented.
That's right.
So he said they weren't always happy, but they were always
Always
contented.
content.
And I think that's contentment is actually maybe more of a hard thing to find in your life than just happiness.
That's right.
So,
I agree.
Yeah,
I
so
absolutely
it's
agree.
interesting.
I think I'm behind the camera here, but I'm going to say that I think it teaches you how to get joy from within, which is something you will take everywhere you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So you are forced, like there are no shoes to buy, really. I mean, compared to
true.
what we were used to,
That's
you're
true.
not going to go out and get a Louis Vuitton purse anytime soon.
Yeah.
So you must really go within and figure out where true joy comes from.
Yep.
And I think that's just such a valuable thing for everybody to have in their life. And I'm assuming if you left here, you would take it with you and be a different person wherever else you went as well. So I always feel very thankful for that we don't need entertainment. We actually just, we have contentment.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Here, I can sit on my front porch, and I'm not wasting time.
Yeah.
In Ontario, if I sat on my front porch, I was wasting time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So our paths crossed.
It did.
Because
I'm so glad.
because of the animals.
Yeah.
Because as you evolved, I guess, from tours and so forth, you wanted to produce something from
Yeah.
the fiber from your alpacas. And you were my very first custom. Actually, I think the second or third batch of yarns that I made was your alpaca, because I made sure, I was so nervous about doing it that I made sure that the guys from the Belfast Mini Mill were still there doing my training when your fiber arrived. So now a lot of water under the bridge, a lot of yarn has been made,
Yeah.
and a lot of spinning has been done. And I think that in my experience now that I have, which is still relatively new, but a little bit more than when we first met, is that I'm always impressed by the way that you look at your fiber as obviously the heart of your business in a lot of ways, but also you're one of the most active people that I know trying to improve your fiber. And so why don't we just talk a little bit about fiber? I knew nothing about, I had never touched alpaca fiber before I started spinning yours, which is, I don't know if I told you that before, but that's really scary.
Uh-oh.
And so why don't you will you talk a little bit about alpaca fiber, and you also are quite scientific about your approach in improving your fiber, so you can tell us a little bit about that as well.
Okay, so the single biggest factor in determining fiber value, whether it's alpaca or sheep wool, around the globe, is average fiber diameter. That's the single biggest factor that determines the economic value of a bale of wool. So, and there is a gold standard in terms of quantifying and qualifying the quality of the fiber. And in Canada, we have grades of fiber for alpaca, and I don't know what they are for sheep. I'm sure there's some, and they're probably the same numbers. I don't know, but I do know for alpaca. So we have 6 grades of fiber in Canada, with the lower grades being finer and the higher grades being coarser. So a fine fiber generally is felt to be a softer fiber and is more valuable fiber. But fineness alone isn't important. You also need consistency. So what I like to use analogies with my clients when they come here, because we go through this and we talk about averages and standard deviations and all that kind of stuff. So the analogy I use is, let's say you've got three numbers, 5, 10, and 15. What's the average?
5, 10, and 15. 10, I guess.
Exactly. You can have another 3 numbers, 9, 10, 11. What's the average?
10.
10. They both have the same average,
Right.
but they're very different. This one is much more variable than this one. So this one is going to feel a whole lot nicer against your skin than this is going to feel. So while the average is important, a low average is important, what's more important from my perspective is that the standard deviation be much narrower, because that means it's going to be more consistent. So we do something called histograms every year on every animal. And a histogram is really just a graphical representation of the fiber diameter. So I send a sample of fiber to a lab in either Colorado or California every year, and they actually measure the individual diameter of all the fibers. And there's about 2,000 samples that they take, and they do an average, and they get a standard deviation, and you get this histogram, and there's a bunch of other information. So I use that information to not only make breeding decisions, but also in terms of deciding which fibers to put together for processing for you.
So so you take samples from different parts of the animal, or is it all one sample?
So all of my samples come from the mid-side
Okay.
of every single animal. So we're trying to compare apples to apples as much as we can. We do know that there can be variation in the fleece. That's partly why when we take the fleece off the animal, we take it off in sections. So we'll take off the blanket first, just like over the back and around the sides, just like where a horse's blanket will be.
Right.
We call that the furs. Some people get the grades of fiber confused with the sorts of fiber because they use numbers. So the furs are the back and around the sides, but that doesn't mean it's a high grade or a high quality fiber. That's just the first. That's the prime fleece on that particular animal. Then typically what's on the neck and on the top of the legs would go into another bag called the seconds. Now often, not always, that fiber is not as consistent in terms of fineness or in terms of length. You don't really know that until you get it on the skirting table and decide.
Right.
So sometimes what I like to do is when I'm speaking to folks and trying to explain the difference between grades and sorts, think of a porterhouse steak. You can get a porterhouse steak from a grade A beef, or you can get a porterhouse steak from a grade AAA beef. Same cut, different grades.
Right.
Same as with alpaca.
Yeah. So you do a really good job sorting, because even now I know your animals by their names, and I know what kind of fiber they have, and the ones that I like and the ones that
the ones that are dirty.
Yeah, that like to roll. So I think that's sort of similar to sheep's wool as well,
Probably.
except that I think there's more variation on from what I've seen of what you sent to me, more variation on a single sheep, like at the britches there can be Kempe hairs and things like that. So it's really
Is Kempe a medulate?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it doesn't dye very well.
Okay.
It's kind of coarse and springy, like it's so. Whereas on alpaca, if we see any kind of guard hairs or whatever, we take those. Take those out right away. They sort easier out of alpaca actually than I find they do with wool, because wool is kind of the wool that we work with mostly is very crimpy, so it kind of holds it in, whereas it kind of falls out of the alpaca. So it's a little bit easier to take those hairs out of alpaca than it is out of sheep. So.
Okay, so this is what a histogram is going to look like. As I said, it's just a graph with a frequency distribution, truly, and it gives you the average fiber diameter, or AFD, and then standard deviation. And this is Keswick, and Keswick is 129 months, so that's 12 plus years old.
Right.
And his average on this is 19.8 microns.
Which is pretty amazing.
That's
because
pretty
the older
amazing.
the animal gets, the coarser the
Typically.
blanket. Yes.
Typically. So just like people, as animals age, their fiber tends to get coarser.
Right.
So he's still a grade 1 fleece.
Yes.
He's got a standard deviation of 4.3, which is not too bad at this point in time. But if you look at the comfort factor is 100 minus the percent of fibers over 30 microns.
Oh,
and if you get if you get a fleece or if you get a garment where more than 5% of the fibers are over 30 microns, it's going to be really itchy.
Right.
It's going to be really itchy. He's got a comfort factor of 97.6.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, he's the signature herd sire in my
Right.
farm. He gets a lot of dance cards.
Okay. A lot of action with Keswick.
Yeah. So, and the other thing that you can see here is this is pretty tight together. There's a high peak. There's quite the tight, and about 75% of his fibers are under 21 microns, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So by comparison, this is one of my older girls. This is Pearl, and that's at 120 months, so a little bit younger than Keswick. So she's got an average fiber diameter of 29, which is more typical of what a 10 or 12-year-old animal is going to be. And of course, her standard deviation is about 4.8, but her comfort factor is only 68.6. So she's got a lot of fibers over 30 microns now. So her fleece, while we can make some really nice yarn from it, her fleece is more suitable for yarn that's going to be used for mittens or socks or something that you need a little bit more durability. And of course, you're going to have to skirt out those coarse fibers.
Right. Well, then when they get to me, you've already sorted the ones that you want to go together, and so we work together to decide like what the yarn is going to be and who's going to go with what. Sometimes things change as we're doing them, but we pretty well know when you drop the bags of fiber off what you're going to get when we get back, when I send them back to you. So you like me to spin all of your fiber that you send to me 100% alpaca.
I do.
So we don't do a lot of blending.
No.
I don't think we've done any blending with your fiber
I don't
at
think
all.
you have.
Yeah.
No.
So I also buy fiber from you, and I blend. blend with wool. And so just to compare to wool, for people that understand the microns for wool, a fine merino, considered a fine merino, I think is around 17 microns. I personally don't worry too much about that because my thing is that we're spinning 100% island fiber. So I'm kind of committed to do that no matter what the microns microns are.
And you can't get merino here.
No, you can't get merino here because it's too wet.
Yeah, not even in Canada. There's no bird in Canada, is there?
I don't think so. And if there are, they're probably in small private flocks. So my challenge with wool is to put together, similar to what you're saying, fibers that are similar in
it's going to feel more comfortable if it's similar.
So even if it's coarser than that, it feels more comfortable, and that's how we manage the fact that we're tied to the fact that we have to use island source wool, which is fine with us. Yeah. So, and I think you're looking for two different things when you're looking for alpaca and if you're looking for wool, and I'm talking about 100% wool. So alpaca, the way it performs in a fabric when you knit it, we can talk about that a little bit. It's much more drapey.
It is. Now it's really going to depend. So there are lots of folks that say that alpaca doesn't have any memory, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. Memory is a function of curvature.
Right.
So curvature and fineness, the two of those factors together make something springy or not springy.
Right. So we'd say crimp.
Crimp, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can get alpaca fiber with lots of crimp. And it's measured. It's one of the things measured on a histogram. But it's not going to, the amount of crimp in even a really crimpy alpaca fleece is probably equivalent to one of the medium crimped sheep breeds. But the difference then becomes in what's the fineness or the coarseness of the fiber. So consider a spring. If you've got a spring and it's a really, and the metal in the spring is small or has a small diameter, versus another spring that's got the same number of revolutions, but the metal in it is thicker, that's going to have more bounce than the thinner one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So lots of alpaca fiber tends to be very drapey, but you can get some, and we've seen some with some decent memory. It's never going to match a merino. It's never going to match a really
Corriedale, which I've been hearing some in my flock. So
but you can still get some alpaca fiber that has some memory to it. No, I'm speaking about Wakaya fiber, not Surrey fiber.
Right.
Because there's
2 different types. You don't have any Surreys.
I have
do you?
no Surreys, no.
Okay.
No.
And Surrey, I do spin some Surrey from another herd, and it's more, much more. I don't want to say silky because that gives the wrong impression, but it's
got a lot more luster.
yeah, a lot more luster. It's definitely straighter even than the straight
Yeah.
Hakaya fiber. It's,
So Surrey alpaca has fiber that grows parallel to the
Right.
skin, almost in ringlets. It's a coarser fiber,
right.
but it's very smooth because the scales on the fiber are very close
Right.
to the surface. Whereas Wakaya, the scales on the fiber are a little bit more raised, and on wool sheep breeds, the scales on the fiber are even more raised. So, and it's the height of the scales or the lack of height of the scales that causes the luster.
Luster, yeah.
So the closer it is to the surface, think of silk that has no scales at all. It's really lustrous because the light is able
Right,
to
right.
bounce off it.
So if we compare to wool, the long wool breeds are actually, the fibers are not very, very fine.
Okay.
They can be as much as 32 microns or whatever, but they can still feel quite soft if they're treated the way they're treated when they're spun. Just to what you say, they're lustrous.
Yeah.
And they're a lot silkier. So if you spin them in a way that makes sure that everything is and you don't have a lot of variation in the fiber that you're spinning, you get that. So it would be the same as Surrey.
Now,
It's a
I
similar-
understood that if you've got a longer staple,
Yeah.
you don't have to apply as much twist
That's
to
right.
get it to stay together.
Right.
And that in itself, if you apply less twist, is going to
Yeah.
make it feel softer, whereas something that's has to be spun really tight
Yeah.
is going to feel a little bit more ropey.
That's right.
Maybe.
Yep, that's right. And also so this is, I mean, these are the kind of decisions that we make when we're deciding
Yeah.
what kind of yarn we want to do, because the tighter the spin though, the more durable the yarn is, depending on what the application is so if you wanted to make socks, for example, then if it's a tighter spin, they're actually more durable than a loose spin. If you want a beautiful shawl, then the looser the spin, the better. It's more better as far as drapiness and that kind of thing goes. So, and then that all depends on how long the staple length is as well. So, and we make those decisions while we're spinning. I call you. Okay,
Yeah.
this is what I'm finding here.
Oh,
Are
Kim's
you,
calling. Oh, what's going on?
Are you okay if we handle this way? Yeah. Okay. So the last time you were at our shop when you dropped off fiber, you were talking a lot about breeding. So you're actively introducing different genetics to your herd, I think, right? Or no, you've found what you want?
So yes and no. So I did add this spring. I added 4 animals to my herd.
Right.
So the one girl, Bella, I added her because I have coveted her since the first time I saw her.
Oh, okay.
So
It was love at first sight.
kind of. So similar to Keswick in that Keswick is 12 years old and still is producing a grade 1 fleece. She's 9 years old and had about 5 babies, and she's still producing grade 1 fleece.
Right.
So I wanted to add her to my herd, but mostly my herd is closed.
A closed herd, yeah.
Yeah.
Similar to us. Safer.
It is safer. It's a lot safer. Yeah. Exactly.
There's an expression in with sheep people, and I'm sure it's the same maybe with alpacas, that you buy your problems in
Oh, that's true.
to your herd.
That's really true.
Yeah. Oh, good. But you're, I guess my point was that you're actively trying to produce the best
I am.
fiber that you can.
I am. So each year, once I send all the samples to the lab. So last weekend we did shearing, so I've got a sample from every animal. It's going to go to the lab in the next couple of weeks. I'll get the information back, and I'll then make decisions about who gets to breed and who doesn't get to breed. And the ones at the bottom of the list don't get to breed.
Right.
So, so I'm always looking at, and I look at a number of factors. I look at their AFD, so their average fiber diameter, and I take, okay, which are the top producers here, and then I consider which are the top producers with standard deviations, and which are the top producers with mean curvature, and which are the top producers with a fibers less than 30 microns. And I highlight all those in a different column. And the ones that are highlighted across the board, those are the ones I want to breed.
Right.
Because they're the top in each of those categories.
Right.
So
Right.
I kind of say, okay, which are the ones that are which categories are most important to me, and then make decisions based on that.
So that gives a good overview of the fiber. So maybe we should show some of your yarns that you have
please.
for sale.
Yes.
Okay. So here we are with the yarns. We're going to talk
some
about
of
the
them,
yarns. They're really, really nice and soft. So I'll just hand you the yarns, and then you can tell me who it is, because I don't remember what I what I spun. So the first thing that I'll say is that your herd has a lot of different colors. And the tendency for alpaca is to kind of keep them natural colors a lot of times, but we had enough natural colors, so now it was time to give them over to Jennifer and do some dyeing.
Yeah.
So this is I would say this is pretty typical. There's not a lot of snow white.
No.
They're all kind of like an ecru color when they're considered. And is this considered white?
It is, actually, and this is considered fawn, that's white.
White fawn. Okay. For us, as far as dyeing, it doesn't matter what the color is underneath.
No, in fact, it's interesting. I think that a lot of alpaca farms choose to have their fiber processed natural color, but in my experience, my clients love the dyed stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, they really love the dyed stuff, and I love the dyed stuff too.
Yeah.
I just have to say it.
It's I get it why you would want to keep natural colors, but at the same time, it's white, fawn, and beige.
Well, there are a few
There's
beyond
black.
that,
We had
but
black. We had black
Yeah.
at one time too, but
So it used to be, or people will tell you in the alpaca industry that white is preferred commercially.
yes,
White or lights because it's more easily dyed. But in my experience, and with Jennifer's help, I actually prefer dyeing the darker stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
there's a lot more dimension.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
We actually have spun things for you that are darker than this even.
Yes.
And I think one of these was quite dark. I think the purple.
Yeah.
on the
So
purple.
this is gray, natural color. I don't have any gray alpacas. I have black and dark brown, and I had white. So you blended the fibers for me, and you spun it as a gray.
Yeah.
But I had lots of gray. So Jennifer
Yeah.
dyed it for me.
Yes.
And it turned out incredible. So I don't know how well you can see it, but there's such dimension to that color that only comes because we had, not only is it gray in here, but we had blended the fibers. So this is more of a heathered kind of yarn. Stunning.
It's amazing.
Absolutely stunning.
So I too think that white is overrated. For dyeing. So, and Jennifer does as well, because it's really we have lots of black sheep in our flock, and people that would be doing like commercial wool flocks would be horrified. But in fact, we overdye our black wool as well, or mix it, like do combinations like was done with that.
So here's another one.
Yeah.
So these two are started out this color.
Right.
And both of these are the same. So I call this one eggplant and this one fox, actually.
Right.
And I love these.
Yeah.
I love these, and there's no way you can get that color from that.
No.
You're just not going to get it.
Yeah, it's got that muted kind of heathery look as well. It's not tweedy, but it has that muted. Great for color work, like traditional.
Actually,
work.
seeing these two together.
I do have to say they look stunning. And they're available for sale if people are interested through your Facebook shop or through your website?
Through the website.
Okay, through the website.
In here, of course, and online. Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
But these are gorgeous. I love them.
So then, this is maybe what white's good for.
Yes, I love that too.
Yeah. So what did you call the one?
This one here. So there's a story behind this. So we had decided when I was back, the last time I was at the mill, and we were talking about what I wanted done with my fiber. not only do you and I have the conversation about how I'd like it spun, I also have the conversation with Jennifer about what colors I want. Because I'm scanning everything to say, yeah, like that and like that. So we had a real good conversation about dyeing white, some speckled, because I hadn't had any speckled yarn before. So we agreed on this, and I think this is called...
In our world, it's called pansy.
That's what I thought. So... So you got my fibre spun, and it was just being finished up. And then I got a message from Jennifer one knit night saying, by the way, can I sell some of your yarn?
Yes, it hadn't even made it out of our shop.
I made it out of the shop, and I'm like, of course, absolutely. And it was a skein of this. So, and I believe, I won't say who purchased it.
Well, it was the infamous Jennifer Hicks.
It was Jennifer.
Yes. She's a sucker for a pretty yarn, that lady. Yeah.
So I have decided to call this impatience.
In
honor of Jennifer.
In honor of Jennifer.
Yeah.
I think it came up a couple knit nights ago again because she's trying to find the perfect project for it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
But absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So so this is really, really lovely, and I mean it's just fantastic. But to get this particular look, it does need to be fair white underneath, whereas the colored ones are with the browns and the darker colors.
Yeah. And I love to experiment.
And you'll maybe, I don't know what the name. I know all the alpacas have. The colors all have very specific names, but you have some animals that it's like a real reddish brown naturally, right?
So
what's that color called?
So most of what you've seen is probably rose gray. So
it's gray?
Yeah, it's considered rose gray because there are actually white fibers in
it.
So it's kind of a reddy brown.
Yeah.
But if there's white fibers in it, it's considered rose gray.
Okay. Is that a sought after color?
I don't know.
I don't like that color. but
no, not on its own, not typically. Like that's not fun.
Yeah.
Because last year you overdyed something like this, a beautiful red.
Yeah.
Gorgeous red.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Yeah.
So you don't, I'll just say you sold out of the overdye that we did over this. Yeah.
I sold out of everything.
All right.
Yeah.
So, so this is considered rose gray?
That is considered rose gray.
Okay.
It's hard to tell.
Rose gray. Okay. No wonder I can't keep the name straight. So this is how our things evolve when people are saying, like, you guys are always laughing. This is how we get there.
I think that's considered devolving, but
devolving. Right. Okay. So this is rose gray. Personally, I'm not a fan of this, but Jennifer overdyed some of this, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And we would love to show it to you, but it's sold out.
Sold out.
Right away. But I'm sure we'll do it again.
Yep.
Some other color.
Yep.
But it's such a good it's a good lesson in people that are married to their ideas of what they think should be done, like it should be natural or it should be whatever, or that's not really for some people this might be desirable, but for me this is not really a desirable color. Nothing, no offense, rose gray, but when you overdye
cheating out there.
But when you overdye it, you can't get something more beautiful.
That's right.
With doing it on white, it was absolutely, it's a perfect marriage between the fiber, the color, and the dyeing that was done.
So that's why I don't breed for color.
Yeah.
The color I get is the color I get. I breed for fiber quality.
Yeah.
I wish I could grow this color. I can't grow this color.
Yeah.
But I don't breed for color.
I think that's where, like, that kind of thing. I don't know. It drives me crazy when people make judgments about this is good and this is bad and whatever. There's no bad fiber.
No.
There's no bad color. It's what you do. There's a purpose for it, and it's finding the right
matching it,
matching the purpose to what you have. And in my case, I'm married to doing wool that I source from local farmers. They're not necessarily concerned about the wool quality, but it works because we make it work. You have your closed herd, more or less. You're continually improving it, and like you said, the colors are. It doesn't really matter because you can match it to do the right purpose. So that's a that's a good philosophy to have, I think. So no yarn or fiber is unloved. So everything is in your shop. Do you have everything on your website for sale, or
It's hard to keep an inventory up to date on the website and in the physical
Right.
shop, because especially at this time of year, because I just have too many people.
yeah? So they have to come here.
So yeah, so they have to come here.
They have to come here. So come and visit.
Yeah, the yarns are going to sell out in no time. They sell out every year.
Yeah.
So there are some things that I stock routinely
Right.
outside of the yarns, and they're always on online shop. What I do encourage folks to do is, I mean, it can be hard to just see a picture of this to get a real appreciation for not only what the actual color is,
Yes.
but actually how it feels.
Yeah.
And part of what people are buying, it requires them to
Squish.
really
The
feel it.
squish factor.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is people who have already been to the farm, who've already kind of manhandled all the yarn, they know what to expect when they see one of my skeins online.
Right.
So, you know, it's easier for them to say, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And that's typically who buys my yarn online, is somebody who's already been a client and has already been here and already know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will say it's very soft. So
Thank you.
if you're looking for soft yarn and you don't want to buy merino or whatever, then this is. But I think a lot of people know that alpaca is a very soft fiber, but it's really soft, and it does have bounce. Especially this one has a
some do.
nice bounce. Yeah.
But not all alpacas created equal.
No, that's right. So you have to trust Janet.
You do.
And somebody's going to ask me about your sweater, or
yes.
ask us. So you sell these in your shop?
I do. I do sell these in my shop. Now, before I will put anything in my shop, I will trial it.
Right.
Because I need to be assured that whatever I sell in my shop is going to be of quality.
Right.
Because I don't want people coming back and saying it wasn't high quality.
Yeah.
So about 2.5 years ago, I guess, I was in Ontario. I was at one of the fairs in Ontario with my daughter Rachel, and we saw these sweaters at a booth, and there was a Peruvian gentleman there selling them, and I said, "Oh, I really like that. I want them in my shop, I think. Will you sell to me?" He says, "No, I don't wholesale." I'm like, "Come on. No, don't wholesale." I said, I'm tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy two. I bought one for me, bought one for Rachel. I said, if these wear really well this winter, then I'm going to contact you in the spring, and I'm going to ask to buy some. I don't wholesale, he says. Anyway, Rachel and I wore them all winter, and they were wonderful. They're light, they're soft, they're warm. I washed mine once in 2 years.
Yeah.
Just once.
Yeah.
Anyway, the spring came along, and I contacted him, and I said, "Look," I said, "I'm in Prince Edward Island. I'm not your competition. I really love your sweaters. I've got quite the clientele here. I'm sure they would like them. Will you sell to me?" He says, "Okay, but I'm not selling to anybody else." I said, "Okay, no problem."
Perfect.
So that works for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're quite nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you can get those here.
Yeah.
As well.
So let's do your FO section and just show this lovely, because this is a pattern we've shown before, Hosty.
Hosty.
And I knit one out of llama fiber. I'm quite certain yours is just a little bit softer. But just showing the now famous Keswick knit
This
up.
is Keswick. So
Yeah.
Keswick is now 12 years old. This is from his last year's fleece. So that 19 micron for standard deviation, less than 3% fibers over 30 microns.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the pattern, by the way. Thank you for recommending. So
Yeah.
thank you.
It's really cute, eh?
Thank you.
Oh, Janet, thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. It was a
Yeah,
blast.
it was great to be
Now I
here
know.
visiting you. in the
I
shop.
understand how much fun you have.
Yeah. I know. It gets ridiculous sometimes, but as long as we're having fun,
That's
we're
right.
content
Content.
when we're having fun.
content.
Right. Give our guests a hug. Jen will get her hug after.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.